I'm laying there and I hear this horrible cacophony of noise. And something is going down in the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
And you hear it sounded like rah, rah, boom, boom, boom. And I was
do
like,
it one more time for
rah,
the people.
rah, rah, boom, boom,
That's
right?
my wife. Yeah.
And,
okay.
And
Go
I
ahead.
was like, and I remember thinking, they said nobody was gonna die, but somebody just died. This is We Don't Always Agree, the podcast where we thrive on hard conversations. I'm Ryan Michelle Buffet.
And I'm Sterling K. Brown.
We said I do almost 20 years ago, and two things about us: we love each other deeply, and we can disagree deeply about a lot of things.
That is true, but we've been learning how to disagree healthily, and this show is our way of pulling back the curtain and sharing our evolution with you. Bird, is you ready?
Child, I'm ready. Are you ready?
Let's go, big dog. We Don't Always Agree is recorded at the Blackbird House flagship in Culver City, California.
I'm going to admit,
What?
I'm going to give a disclaimer before we start.
Give you a disclaimer.
Before we get into it. I'm a little nervous.
Are you really?
I am, because for me, it was very private what we're about to talk about. And as so evidenced and so typical of you and you want to tell the world. And I'm like, shut your mouth.
That's pretty, powerful.
You know what I mean? Or I'm again, that
What are
WB
we talking
frog.
about?
We are talking about, are we talking about that Huasca? That is the Sterling negrified version.
You came up with that. You came up with that. Yes,
okay,
you
that's
did.
Okay, I'll take it. Orion negrified it, more commonly known as the medicine.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca.
All right, so you're reticent, but yet you're deciding still to get into it. Why are you ultimately getting over that trepidation in order to talk about your ayahuasca experience?
I still don't know. No, I know why. I know. One, because I admire the bravery that you have in sharing these wonderful experiences. Two, there is this sort of conversation that we're having now about gatekeeping. Like, y'all gatekeep this, y'all been gatekeeping, who be gatekeeping? So there's a part of me that's like, I do want to be able to share.
Okay.
And then I just wanted to eliminate stigma around psychedelics and things that people are doing to heal trauma.
Yeah.
And because I don't think that there's any shame in looking for whatever experiences or modalities of healing that you can find to make yourself feel better in your own skin and have a better experience of your own self being on this planet, right?
Yeah.
And it, I would say it strengthened our relationship with each other. It was definitely an experience that we will have for the ages together. And I do feel like I got closer to God. What about you? I know you're not hesitant, so what do you want to share?
I'll say a couple of things because I've had two experiences with the medicine. So one before you and then one with you. And I think you saw, I think there was something that you may have seen in me when I came back from that first experience. You're like, oh, Sterling seems kind of cool. I'm asking, I'm wondering when I came back.
Do you want to know the real, you know what, for real?
Preach.
I was convinced you were going to come back and divorce me. No, I'm serious. Sell all your worldly possessions, go off, run off with Svetlana and be
this is a running theme in our relationship.
Have to go live in Paris so I can be my best self.
What is Svetlana? Is what she?
I think she's many things. I think she's multi-ethnic. But definitely
she's some combo of Eastern European.
There's a post-communist fall of Berlin
Where
Wall.
you at, Svetlana? Holla at your boy.
Or not, Svetlana.
Listen,
you can keep your ass away.
I will say, for me, I think the interesting thing is because I think you have been someone that I would label as a seeker for a very long time, for the totality of since I met you.
That is
true.
I
was very sort of anchored in Christianity, right? If it was not of the Bible, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so I think the role reversal that we've experienced over time within the relationship is sort of an interesting thing that ultimately, I was the person that was like, hey, would you like to come with me to this retreat? Right? Because I was like, I would love to do it with you, but I'm going to go back. And you were like, you know what? I may go ahead and go. Let me go ahead and go.
I think I was also very deeply touched by the fact that you wanted to share it with me. I
For
was
sure.
deeply, deeply touched by
You the
that.
homie. You the
Yeah.
homie.
Oh, thank you. And since there was no Svetlana, I was like, okay, well.
Yeah. Well, I think let's go ahead and jump into it because
Come on.
let's not lose the Black people. Let Black people stay with us. We understand that this is something that typically folks consider to be white people-ish.
And I want to start with that because I truly did feel like that when to get into the weeds of it. And it was someone who said, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So you talked about growing up Christian, and I'll just jump
Talk about
in.
your spiritual journey and how we're sort of getting to this place.
The irony is that we both grew up Christian. He grew up, Sterling, I can say you grew up in a charismatic church. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, Bethesda Temple, St. Louis, Missouri.
Yep.
Baptized there. And I will say this. When you grow up in a charismatic Pentecostal Church of God in Christ type of church, as much as there is such a conservative, you got to do this, you got to do that. On the other hand, you see people running up and down the aisles. You see people doing flips. You hear people speaking in a different language.
Yeah.
You tarry for the Holy Spirit. You got people in circles just singing and rocking and singing and rocking and wanting the Holy Spirit to come in. And you see some crazy things. Growing up, I saw some crazy things
and you
in
can
church.
contextualize and be like, oh, this is what happened.
Yeah. So I think that there's such and then going to college and learning that that's like magical realism. And then you read Toni Morrison and then it all kind of comes together and you realize, well, that's like, the mysticism of what it is to be like African. And whether you like it or not, you see, videos of African people prior to Christianity celebrating. And you're like, that looks a lot like
what goes on in my church.
And you're praise and worship. And just the fact that you get filled with the Spirit and how different it is when you go to a Catholic church, for instance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they do things real different here. Stand up. I'm in church when you stand up, it's because you're jumping. Hallelujah.
I will say this about Mass. They get your ass out of there in about 45 minutes flat.
Now listen,
bam!
That part of me was like, now this is tight. This is tight. I can go
watch
to the mall. So I will say that as much as we both grew up Christian, I think that is important to state that the mysticism was always a part of what it was to be a Christian for me. So when going to college, it was an easy kind of like hand in glove talking about mysticism and deeper kind of like experiences. I also had a mom who had left St. Louis, who went to New York. And in that 1980s, my mom was very much like, she thought of herself as a bit of a when the moon is in the seventh, like she was, Shirley MacLaine. Remember, I don't know if anybody remembers, but I was very young and Shirley MacLaine dancing in the light or walking in the lights, whatever the light came out. And my mother made me read it. I was like, ma'am, I'm in kindergarten. I'm not sure. But she was like, no, because past lives. And, so I had also been introduced to that. And it was never introduced like it was something wrong with it.
So this is interesting, like the sort of mysticism that you're talking about. And I grew up, speaking in tongues, believing in the Holy Spirit, being infused with tongues, what have you. Like that always felt like that sort of mysticism is allowed within a very specific context, in the specific context of believing in the death, burial, and resurrection, right? And if it didn't have anything to do with that, to do with Jesus Christ, then it was not of God, right? I can remember one instance in particular where one of my best friends was Muslim and they were practicing Ramadan. My man Ashraf.
Okay.
And they could not eat from sunup to sundown. He'd go to the drinking fountain and rinse his mouth out with water and then spit it out. I was like, man, he practiced his religion hard.
Right.
I was like, I don't know if I practice Christianity that hard. And so I went to church one day and I was asking this poor 34, 35-year-old Sunday school teacher, and I was like, hey man, how come the Muslims going to hell and the Christians going to heaven? Because I got kind of lucky. My mom was Christian, so I grew up Christian, but my boy is Muslim and his mom was Muslim, and so that's why he's Muslim. But is he going to go to hell because he don't know Jesus Christ? And this poor 34-year-old man is like, To the best of my understanding. And I was like, that don't make sense.
No.
Like like there was always something that always just seemed at odds within my soul with regards to this monopoly of salvation that was reserved for just the Christians, right? And so it wasn't until one night at home, I think we were together at the time, and I was watching Wayne Dyer on PBS, right? Do you remember Dr. Wayne Dyer?
Of course.
And his explanation, he was talking about his book, The Power of Intention, which I went and I bought because the way in which he explained God was the first explanation of God that sort of like did not make me sort of go like, huh? It was just like, oh, like God is for everybody, right? Only the people who don't want God in their lives are the ones who don't have access because it's their choice to not be in concert with the divine presence. That there was a universal acceptance of all people, right? And not sort of like an allocation of who deserves my full love and who gets part of it and who gets none of it, right? So I think my evolution then was like, Christianity was the thing that introduced me to like a relationship with God. But my relationship with God is something that other people have that were introduced in another way. When we talk about the life of Pi,
Right. Yeah.
I don't know who read it first. Was it you? It was probably you. You're always reading stuff, but I was like, this book, I had heard enough about it. And Pi was practicing 3 different religions at the same time. And then his parents found out that he was practicing 3 different religions at the same time. And then his parents were like, Pi, you can't do that. But it had already been like several months. And he's like, well, I can show you. like I prayed to Krishna about Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ about Krishna. And like it didn't matter. And it sort of unlocked my brain in a way that like, just because it's looked one very particular way for most of my life, it doesn't mean that it is the only way. It is just one way. So now when it comes to ayahuasca specifically, a friend of mine, I love her, and she always talks about these, she's always doing sweat lodges and like all these different sorts of things and whatnot. I said, what's the latest thing in your spiritual journey? And she goes, what do you know about ayahuasca? I was like, oh, who and ha? Ayahuasca. And so she goes, well, first of all, it's not a drug. This is what she said. It's not a drug. It's a medicine. I was like, all right, I ain't trying to shame you into nothing. I don't even know what ayahuasca is to begin with, right? And the way she explained it is, it unlocks blind spots that you didn't even know you had. And you know, for me, the dude who's always trying to become the next best version of himself, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that sounds deep. Maybe I should give that a shot. But it also, then I did research and I was like, this looks insane. Right? Like this looks completely and totally insane. People with buckets and all the purging and da 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 da.
A lot of purging.
And it wasn't until like it sort of echoed back in my life like 4 or 5 times, like somebody else would bring it up. Somebody, and not like immediate sequence, but like it just kept coming back up. And I was like, it might be time for me to see what this is all about. Right?
And you did.
And I did.
You did. So let's go. Okay, let's back up just a little bit because we need to talk about where we were on different pages and where we got on the same page, and then how that eventually led to us being in a church that introduced us to a lot of those things anyway and made it okay. Because I do think that being in Agape kind of laid a different foundation and groundwork for us to be able to
talk
be
about
open to that
Well,
stuff,
talk
right?
about
So we talked about how we were both raised in this holiness church. Now, by the time we got to college, I had begun a different spiritual journey, right?
Yeah, you would do these things. You'd read these books, Conversations with God
Conversations
and whatnot.
with God was my jam, and it was the first time that I read a spiritual text that wasn't the Bible.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it felt very sacrilegious to me.
You thought it was very sacrilegious.
Oh my God, I would try to hide the books.
Yes, you
I'm
did.
like, girl,
you did, I
please
remember.
don't send us to hell.
Yeah. You were like, I love you, and if we stay yoked together, I'm going to go to hell with you if you keep reading these demon books.
Did I say that?
And not in so many words, but there was definitely, right? But and even in school, we sang in gospel choir, we went to black church, we did all that stuff, right? And I never saw it as a divergence. I just saw it as an addition, whereas you saw it as a divergence, right? Anything that's not the Bible is not to be read.
Yep.
So cut to, ironically enough, we always were able to talk about it, even though we never came to agreement on it. Even in the worst of our, not the worst, but even in the prior incarnations of our relationship when we were just seeing each other. And then by the time we got back together in our most recent incarnation, our marriage, we kind of were starting to get on the same page a little bit with the Wayne Dyer. And then I was at West Angeles because we were both going to holiness churches. You were going to Faithful Central. I was going to West Angeles. And when I was at West Angeles, which I loved, it reminded me of home. It reminded me of everything I had grown up with.
Yeah.
I loved that church. But at one point, I was even in the choir, which, I mean, was such an amazing experience. But at the end of the day, I realized there was a lot of talk, and they tried to make it sound loving, but they were very clear on their stance on homosexuality.
Yeah.
Homosexuality was wrong.
Right.
And we were kind of at the point where we were thinking about having children, and I realized I cannot bring them to this church because I'm going to be very clear that I don't think it's wrong. And if they are gay or anywhere on that spectrum, they're not going to have a home at church.
Right.
And I need to find them a church home now before they even come into this world.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's how we found Agape. Right? I mean, one of the things we had you're wearing it. Oh my God. Yay.
You just noticed it.
No, I noticed it before, but I just was like, oh, that's a nice little tie-in.
Thank you very much.
Reverend Michael gave those to us. Yeah. So anyway, very long story short, we started going to Agape, and right around that time was when you were open to it because Kakanza, who was our marriage counselor
Let me
at the time,
also, so when you go to a place like Agape for the first time, you're like, this is really strange.
It is very strange.
Because it's sort of like a interdenominational, non-denominational place where people are Christian, are Jewish, are Muslim, are whatever, are gay, straight, anything else or whatnot, and everybody's accepted and everybody feels free to be themselves, right? Where you have folks over there who are like listening to the music, just getting it down or whatever, and then somebody else not paying attention to the 2 and the 4 in the least bit.
Didn't care about it.
And just loving life, man. You know what I'm saying? And they'll be right next to each other. And I was like, I love it. I love that there is a place where everybody feels free to be who they are, right?
I agree. I mean, and again, it's weird because there are times when we diverge or we go back this way because there's, when it comes to music and being on beat and all that stuff, like I find that to be a very important part of the church experience.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I need a tambourine. I'm like, y'all, can I get a tambourine?
That organ.
Not jingle bells. I need a tambourine. Yes, exactly. So at Agape, what they talk like, and this is, we're getting to how we ended up here because you had this experience, but they talk about this place in Costa Rica, Rhythmia.
Yes. Which is like the only licensed dispensary of ayahuasca.
Which I did not know at the time. Yeah. And the way they talk about Rhythmia at church is it's like this farm to table. It's like really cool. It's in the forest.
A wellness
retreat. So I'm thinking one day I'm going to have enough money to go to Rhythmia. That's all I kept thinking, right? Because this is like years of being introduced to Rhythmia.
Yeah.
So you had done ayahuasca and then you came and said, hey, Bird, there's an opportunity to go do ayahuasca at Rhythmia.
Yeah.
In my mind, I thought, oh, well, I'll be at this wellness retreat, and this is like an optional part. Now, when you originally did your ayahuasca experience, you had to do all of this eating a certain way, for 2 weeks beforehand, and none of that. Didn't have to do that when we went to Rhythmia. So,
no, we did.
Oh, not really.
I did.
I didn't, Jeff. Anyway, as I'm chomping on my Snickers bar in the airport, I did not eat a Snickers bar.
That's why you were probably more sick.
No.
But we'll get to it.
Anyway.
We'll get to it.
So very long. I'm like, okay, so we'll go to this wellness retreat and there will be this optional experience of having this. And dear reader.
if you go.
It is optional, but I get there and they're like, I mean, you don't really have to do it. But I'm like, y'all ain't got no televisions in the room. I already read my book on the plane. This ceremony thing y'all talking about starts at 5 o'clock. Like, what am I supposed to do from 5 o'clock to what? I gotta go to bed at 5 o'clock.
Till after midnight.
Like it was, and it dawned on me that I was going to not have to do this, but that this is what you did when you get there. And I will say, it was a little disconcerting being the only Black woman there.
You weren't the only.
I wasn't.
Yep.
One of few Black women.
One of few.
And feeling like, again, it's that thing of when you're raised in the communities that we're raised in, your spidey sense starts to tingle like, there's some white people shit. These white people gonna lead you astray. I mean, it's like you have this voice in your head. But it's true.
Grandpa running through.
I'm just be real transparent. There are times when I can hear my grandmother, girl, now you know, come on now. Now look, this ain't nothing but the Klan. This ain't nothing but the Klan. Like my grandmother.
The Klan.
No, we used to pass, just quick anecdote, we used to pass this Quaker meeting house in Connecticut. And my grandmother would be in the back seat talking about, y'all know that ain't nothing but the Klan. I was like, grandmother, it's the Quakers. And the Quakers were abolitionists. She's like, I don't know what an abolitionist is, but that's the Klan. I know what the Klan looked like. I was like, it's not the... But you think...
So
anyway,
your spidey senses were tingling.
My spidey senses were tingling. That this is maybe not for me. And the Reverend Doctor happened to be there.
Yeah.
And he mentioned something. He said, you have to look at it like this medicine was born in the jungles and protected and cared for by brown and black people for eons.
Yeah.
So this is actually ours. And you can see it as a reclamation.
Okay.
That's when I began the shift.
Okay.
I think. One of many shifts to kind of get me to be okay with going through the ceremony.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what ayahuasca is.
Yes, for
and
those
what
of
the
you
sort
who
of
don't
ceremony entailed, right? Ayahuasca is a South American plant-based psychedelic or psychoactive brew, traditionally used by indigenous cultures for spiritual ceremonies.
Yes.
It is not, let me say, for spiritual ceremonies.
That's very important.
You don't just take ayahuasca like, yo, man, I feel like tripping. No.
It's not even accessible on that level.
No. You can't go there and you have to go through like shamans for the most. I don't know how else you get it. Like there are people who have been cultivating the medicine and brewing it in a very particular way so that you can have a very specific experience. Like set and setting means something when you are taking this medicine. Having an intention and wanting to have a desired outcome. You don't do it willy-nilly. We don't do drugs.
No.
We went to go have a spiritual experience.
Yeah,
right?
Something that is protected by the indigenous people who have been tasked with protecting this plant.
Yeah.
And you can't get it at CVS, right? Or on the street corner.
Yeah. Can I get a couple pills of
y'all got that
Huasca?
Y'all got that Huasca.
That doesn't exist.
Right?
So let's talk about our Rhythmia experience specifically.
Right. And I just want a little caveat. Yeah. This is specific to Rhythmia.
Yeah. I'm sure other people set it up in other ways, but this is what we experienced there.
Right.
So it's 4 nights. 4 nights of medicine. And before that first night of medicine, there's a night of breath work, which I think we may have missed.
We missed.
There's deep breathing exercises and stuff where you can work yourself into a particular state just through breathing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And each night we had a different strand of the medicine that hit just a little bit different, okay?
True.
Each session, it starts like when the sun goes down, and it lasts like
all night into the morning.
10, 12 hours.
Yeah.
Like it goes for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And there's shamans, and there's a sort of introductory ceremony, and they play music. And it's really cool because you feel sort of like ensconced in ritual, right?
That part, yes.
Go.
Yes.
What were you
No. I was going to say there is something you feel contained. You feel held.
Yeah.
You very much feel like there are people in this room who are taking this very seriously. And that for me also began another shift of like, there are a million ways to call maybe not a million, but there are different ways to call yourself reverend. There are different ways to call yourself a man or woman of God. And that was another thing that I thought was very made a deep impression on my soul, was seeing women have as much a part of the ceremony as men.
Hands down.
Because that was not something that I grew up seeing in any Christian religion that I was ever a part of.
I want to say, before we get to the sessions at night, we're attending seminars throughout the day, and they're sort of talking you through what your experience could be like.
And they're telling you their own deep personal experiences of like their own traumas. Like all of the practitioners are telling you their traumas and what the medicine did for them and encouraging you to journal before and after. Like they're really taking it very seriously.
Yeah. So when you get there and there's mats all over the floor, and we had a very big session. It was 90 something
What
people.
was the name of the room?
I can't remember right
Yeah.
now. It'll come to me, but there's 90 people and there's like these mats all over the floor.
Mhm.
And then there's two main shamans at the front of the room that are conducting the ceremony. And then there's these other junior shamans in training that are sort of holding the space around the periphery, just sort of looking out for us.
Mhm.
Now let's get to this real thing, because this is something everybody knows about ayahuasca, but I want to speak to it directly. It is the purge.
Mhm.
They give you a bucket that you have at the end of your mat for if you need to purge orally, which is to vomit, right? What the medicine does, I want to try to contextualize it as best I can. The medicine is a cleansing sort of thing, both spiritually and physically, and it brings things up and out of you, right? In terms of sights, and then also in terms of just your physically.
Yeah.
A lot of people purge orally. Brown, because I've done this now on 2 different occasions, 6 nights total, only purge from the back door.
Mhm.
Now, let me be clear. I make it to the bathroom every time. It's
Yeah.
not one of those things like, I ain't gonna be going to shitting on myself. No. It's not like that. You have time. Like you feel a little.
Except that one lady.
Stop. She was
It's true though.
She was an older lady. Stop. I'm trying to. Okay. Yes, the one lady. So it can happen, but like it doesn't happen that often. But like I went to the restroom several times throughout the night and made it no problem at all, right?
Yes.
Sometimes sweat. I mean, my body, I don't know if you experienced this, but I
No.
had like a full body sweat, things coming
I
up
basically
out.
just vomited the whole time.
You did.
For 4 days straight. I purged
did.
orally for most of the time.
But for people, would you say like, is it something to fear? Is like,
Well,
but it's just sort of
listen,
like,
I will say this. It is not for the faint of heart,
No.
but you don't have to be afraid.
right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you. There was a part of me that, remember that River Ghost,
Yeah.
the movie?
Mhm.
And when Willie, the man who killed old boy, died, and the bad things came for him, and it was like, dun, 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 dun. I thought I would see that, and like all the bad things I had done in life were gonna come back, and I would just see them dancing like that. That's what I thought. So I was terrified. So that first night, I was like, what in God's name have I gotten myself into? People are wearing all white.
Well, they want you to wear all white because it's dark.
They did, yeah, so they can see you.
So
but
they can
I
see
was
you.
like, y'all ain't got to see me. I'm okay. Y'all ain't know it. Nobody got to see me, right? So I'm just pissed, right? And they say the first night you see who you've become. And clearly, I was a pissed off person. So the first night you're there. It feels very weird. You don't know what you're getting yourself into.
You have a shot cup.
And then they bless everything. They sing their songs. They do their chants. They pray over everything. And then they say, now it's open.
Yeah.
And so everybody gets in line and you literally get a literal shot glass. And everyone takes their first shot and you go and you lay down on your mat and you have your experience.
They also let you know, so they'll offer medicine again about an hour or so later. And if you have not entered into some sort of journey, right? They say, like, if we ask you if you want more medicine and you're still coherent enough to hear and respond to that question, then it usually means you need more medicine.
And that first night, I remember them saying that, it was so loud and clear in my brain.
Yeah.
I was like, how the hell I'm gonna get up? I can't get up off this mat. They gonna bring me the medicine? Ain't nobody bringing me no medicine. I guess I ain't gonna get no medicine. They want me to take another cup. I bet I'll go to. And so I'm just like, and there was a woman next to me who was the most lovely and beautiful person. And I was like, me and her, we gonna be all right. I don't know about the rest of these people, but if something goes, I'm like head on a swivel. I'm like, something happens, I'm grabbing her and we're running. I've got exit strategies on exit strategies, right? interesting enough, I realized I might need it because I'm laying there.
Yeah.
And I think I had experiences, and I won't get into what I saw and experienced because they are kind of personal.
Okay.
And I'll share, but
Okay.
maybe not in this
Go
setting.
ahead.
And so I'm laying there and I hear this horrible cacophony of noise. And something is going down in the bathroom, right? And you
Yeah.
hear it sounded like rah, rah, boom, boom, boom. And I was
Do it
like,
one more time for the
rah,
people.
rah, boom, boom, boom,
That's my
right?
wife. Yes. Okay.
And
Go
I
ahead.
was like, and I remember thinking, they said nobody was gonna die, but somebody just died. And I was like, oh well. And I rolled over and I looked at my girl and I was like, we gonna be all right. I was like, I got the means of egress. We gonna be up out of here. And then I see them running and I was like, somebody done died in the bathroom. I said, it would be me. It would be me to see the person die in the
I'm
bathroom.
gonna tell you my experience of that same thing because I have a different recollection. My first night with you in the medicine, well, very few visions happened, but a lot of physical purging. I think I went to the bathroom 7, 8 times, right? And I can remember, like, last time I was on the toilet, I started to feel faint. Like I had lost so much water, right? Because you stop eating at 2
And
p.m.
drink. Yeah.
You stop you can drink water up until the
But they
ceremony.
want you to sip it, not a lot of water.
But you're not supposed to drink water after you take the medicine because then it can become acidic in your belly.
Yeah.
So you stop drinking water then, right? So you just have like all this fluid coming out or whatnot. And I felt mad dehydrated. I was like, oh man, I'm sitting on the toilet and I gotta get out of it. I gotta get out of this bathroom. Like my body started sweating. I was like, I can't stay in the bathroom. So I was like, you gotta clean yourself up, bro. Get it together. So I got the toilet paper, got myself together. I said, I'm gonna wash my hands. I'm gonna go outside because you have the option to go outside and get a little fresh air, right? So I get up, flush, I wash my hands, go to the bathroom door, and the next thing I know, somebody put their hand on my shoulder as I was sitting on the floor of the bathroom saying, hey, you all right, man? It was me. I was the nigga that died in the bathroom. My wife was like, huh, see, I done told you that. And it was fucking me. I was sitting on the bathroom floor like, I didn't get out of the bathroom.
And I'm like, somebody ain't made it out the bathroom. Oh, well. Because we weren't together. Like they told the couples not to be together. So I had no idea it was you until the next morning. I was like, was you in the bathroom? I thought somebody died.
Do you want to talk anything in terms of what visions you did have? If you want me to start, I can.
Why don't you start and then I'll say a more general experience.
So I'll start because the first time I did the medicine was without you. And here I was thinking like, I'm free and easy. Like I'm ready for this. I'm ready for new experiences. Da 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 da. I think what had dawned on me that first night for me was how much I crave control. I think all of us, to a certain extent, whether we're conscious of it or not, like to feel like we have some semblance of control over our bodies, over our environment, over our futures, etc. And so this first night for me, the lesson was like, you have to relinquish, you have to let go and let God, right? Because oftentimes too, what they tell you in both of our trainings before is that like when things become uncomfortable, breathe.
Yes.
Like, and then you ask yourself, have you ever felt the way that the medicine is making you feel right now in life? And in life, when you have that feeling, regardless of the vision, like what kind of mechanisms or strategies do you have to deal with coping with that feeling, right? Because what the medicine is can introduce that feeling to you like that in a very intense way. And you're like, all right, how do I deal with that feeling, right? So my first night, I had my shot glass of medicine. My gurgle in my belly started from the very beginning. And this was a place where I had to go to like an outhouse, like 30 yards away from the place. And so I went and I came back and I'm looking at the stars. I'm like, well, the stars look really pretty. Am I on a journey? Am I on a vision or whatnot? I walk back inside and they say, hey man, would you like some more medicine? I was like, I think so, man. Like I think I'm good. Right? And he's like, all right, brother. That's what I like to hear. And I was like, all right. So he gives me like a little half a shot glass. He's like, oh, he give me a little baby shot, like a half a shot, right? I was like, let me take this shot. Bird, I lay down on my mat, and it was on like fucking Donkey Kong, son. I was like, "Bruh!" There were these vines that came up out of the ground, vines slash snakes, what have you, and they grabbed my body and they pulled me into the ground, and I blacked the fuck out. And I don't know how long I was gone. I came to, and like I could hear music. My whole body was sweating. Whole body was sweating. And the music, and you can experience, you know this from your experience, the music starts outside and the music becomes so intense on the medicine, it feels like it's coming from inside of your head. And I was like, this music is too much for me right now. And they had a sort of serpentine quality to it. I'm like, and I was like, y'all need to stop singing this snake shit. So then what happened, I would pop up and I would get a little bit of a break because they say like the medicine can flow most freely through you when you're in a prone position or what have you, where there's no impediment. So if you need a break, take a sit up, right? Sit up for a second. If you need a break, open your eyes, right? Because the visions are usually more intense when your eyes are closed. And then when you open your eyes, you're like, oh, there's people here. There's a shaman. I'm still in Costa Rica. Like life is still good. This is still my body. Because sometimes there's a couple of moments when you're like, am I in my body? And you have to look and be like, yep, that's me. But you're also in another place as well. But that first night was very scary. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go through that again, right? And I say that to say, because I like had deep prayers with God. I was like, all right, I know you're showing me what I need. Can I get some of that good time white people shit? Like I wanna just see you, feel you a little bit closer. Like, can we get down like that? And God was like, I got you. I can give you a little yin yang. Like I give it all to you until this next night. I had this moment. I was telling this joke, but I was telling it out of sequence. Like it was ending with the punchline, and then it would go to the setup at the beginning, and like I couldn't follow the joke, but people were cracking up. They were cracking up. And I was like, I want to understand the joke. I don't understand why this is funny. And God said, why are you worried about how it happened? Look at what you caused. Look at what you've brought to other people. And I just took a breath and I was like, oh, I brought joy. And God was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. And so to sort of release this idea to have it all figured out. I think so much of our journey as human beings is like wanting to understand. And I think that's a natural sort of thing. And I think for me, my experience is you see us through a glass darkly, and then with each sequential experience, I saw a little bit clearer. I saw something different. I understood that the nature of the universe is infinite, right? I understood why people can do it thousands of times and get like a different experience each and every time. So that's a little bit about what the medicine. I can go into more detail, but I'm curious because I know you're a bit more reticent to share, but what do you feel comfortable sharing?
Well, that's really beautiful, and I almost kind of want to leave it there and be like, and that's our episode. But I will say that a lot of times people wonder, what do you take away that's life changing?
Yeah.
Like where that nothing will ever take it back, nothing will ever take it away from you. Like what did you get out of it that's permanent? And I will say that the permanent shift in my life that I got out of the medicine was having a deep spiritual, metaphysical, profound, emotional, heart-opening experience with God as a woman or a female presence. I shouldn't say woman, but a female presence.
Yeah.
At every point in my life up until then, in my deepest, darkest hours of anguish and late in the midnight hour,
God is
as
a
we
man.
say,
Yeah.
the feeling that I've felt has been a decidedly male presence,
Yeah.
which I didn't even know until I had this experience and had an experience of feeling like I was being cradled by the mother,
Yeah.
you know? And I felt like I was able to, for the first time in my life, integrate what indigenous people all over the world, for the most part, have known that this presence is truly not a man, not a woman, not old, not young. It is this
Everything.
everlasting everything. God is all.
Everything, everywhere, all at once. they
Everything,
call it.
everywhere, all at once. And
Yeah.
when I I realized that the experiences that I had had of God up until then were all I could understand with my limited knowledge of God. So even though I was having these profound experiences, it was still kind of filtered through my brain and what my brain could handle. And I feel like the medicine allowed my brain to open and provide and say, no, can you feel this other? Can you feel more of God? Can you feel more of God? Now you can feel more of what I am
Yeah.
that I am. That's what it says in the Bible. I am that I am.
Yeah.
And then we say, He, our Father,
Sure.
which art in heaven.
Sure.
Right. And of course, it's gone through a gajillion translations, and we can talk about the Greek and then the
Yeah.
Aramaic
Yeah.
and the who's and the what's and the Latin and all of that stuff. But I do feel like those those ideas about God become not just ideas, but they become truths
Yeah.
that we live from. And it was really, really beautiful for me to have to feel those shackles,
I love that. I love
finally
that.
release.
What
So
what kind of advice? Thanks for sharing. I didn't know if you say anything, so I'm glad you said something. What kind of advice would you have for people who are thinking about trying ayahuasca?
well,
That Huasca.
I would say, listen, if you can say this is my blood and this is my body, which is broke, and you're actually believing that you're eating the body and
Yeah.
there is some basis for this.
Mhm.
If you need a hook from Christianity, like Christianity is all about putting things in your body to become closer to God.
Sure. Sure.
So
Yeah.
maybe that's where Christianity gets it from. I'm just saying. I'm
Maybe.
not, I don't want anybody, there are gonna be people who turn it off. She's sacrilegious.
Right.
All I'm saying is that there's evidence
Yeah.
and there is precedent. And if you are led to it, pray, have a little talk with Jesus,
Sure.
tell him all about your troubles. And if you feel led, I think that there is within you the courage to do it if
I'll
you feel led to
piggyback
do
on
it.
that. I think you should only do it if you feel led.
Yeah.
I feel like the universe will sort of show up in different ways and sort of kind of whisper to you in quiet stillness and be like, you know what? You're ready. Because it ain't for everybody. And it's not like it may not be for you at this time in your life. It is intense. Straight up, full stop, period. Most intense thing that I've ever put myself through. But it is powerfully transformative if you are ready, but
Yes.
only if you're ready.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that's
And what did we learn? We learned that I am a light warrior and you are a light worker.
You want to tell them what that means?
And well, just so a light. I wish we had better definitions for it, but it was more of a spiritual resonance,
Yeah.
than an intellectual one, I think.
Mhm.
But it gave context to our relationship and why we've had so many kind of like rap, 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 rap. Because I feel like we need to go. I'm a no justice, no peace.
You
Let's
feel
take
like
to
I
the
don't
streets.
fight enough.
Right,
And
right,
I feel like you're always looking for a fight.
right.
I
And
think that's sort of right. And then also being able to not judge that, but recognize that like
right.
we need fighters.
And we
We
need
need
workers.
yeah.
And so basically one of us takes the light and is like, I'm going to take this and be, the sword of justice. And the other one is like, I'm working with the light and giving it. And
Yeah.
I'll bring it and I'll give it. And I'm going to do like this.
Yeah.
And the other one was like, when it's time to, get Thor's hammer here, That's what I learned. I am Thor. So
Yeah.
basically I am Thor and we agree on that. What else did we
What
agree
did we
on?
agree on? We agreed on how everything unfolded from our spiritual upbringing to how we ended up doing ayahuasca. Like we agreed that like we didn't start at a place where we grew up thinking like, oh yeah, we know all about ayahuasca. Like, it was a journey for us to get
Right.
here. We agreed that while doing ayahuasca, we had very different experiences.
We have very different
I'll
experiences.
say that. Like my wife was way more nauseous than I was, again, because my nausea is from the back door. But even still, Like just, I know that didn't sound right.
No,
That wasn't a
baby, it
good. That
didn't.
wasn't a good visual.
Not at all, Speedy.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Facts. But we still got something out of it.
Very
right?
much so.
We still got something very powerful out of it. And what did we disagree on? That's all good. Yeah, we listen. I would say that it's mostly agreement. Like I don't think you would have done it without me.
That's true. And I think the irony is that I'm the one who, if as a couple we started this together in terms of going back to conversations with God,
Yeah.
I'm the one who introduced sort of the more artsy fartsy granola crunchy.
Yeah.
Like there's other ways to look at this. And you were like, that conversation with God and Satan. And the irony is that here we are however many years later, and you've like, I'm an expert ayahuasca.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Like I remember one night in particular where the night of the divine feminine when we were taking the medicine. And they have new musicians come in and they like, if you want to get up and dance, like go ahead and enjoy yourselves. Man, when the Spirit of the Lord came upon my heart,
I look
up like David.
I look up and Sterling is like surrounded, because you know he's taller and he's surrounded by all these little like minions of little white ladies and they're all like grooving. And Sterling is, I shit y'all not.
I'm going to tell you, it was like one of the best nights of my life. Like I did not.
Why is he looking at us?
Give a flying
like
fig
Twyla
Newton.
Tharp.
Well, it's also because I was making shadow puppets on the wall because the fire behind me was casting the image.
I was like, I'm going to go to hell. I'm supposed to be having a spiritual experience
cold.
And I am cracking up at this Negro. Looking like...
We agreed on most of it. I'm glad, listen, I'm glad that we decided to share this. I don't think people who look like us typically talk about these sorts of things.
Yep.
I think that a demystification of what it all is and what it can be is of importance, right? Because I think we're both in it enough and outside of it enough to know that like, oh, this shit is weird to most people.
Yep.
It's weird to us too.
Yep.
But that didn't keep us from doing it.
Nope.
And it didn't keep us from having like a massive awakening because of it. Right?
For sure.
So hope we didn't lose everybody. We're gonna take a break and we'll be back with more.
I hope not.
We don't always agree. And we're like, we done with these black people. I don't know.
We're like, are they gonna take our black card?
They can try.
Wait till they hear about
you for 100 years and I never blink and you were beautiful.
We back. Favorite section. This is why I'm hot. You ready?
Yes.
This is where we get like a topic off the dome. We each get a couple of minutes to talk about who's right, who's wrong. We may agree, we may disagree. As usual, I will probably wind up winning, but that's all good. You want to introduce the topic?
I do. Okay. And I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna try to do it really fast because I want to share my anecdote. So you drank what you thought was herbal tea, but it ended up being a psychedelic medicine. Where would you rather be when it kicks in?
I got options.
A church service. B, a music festival. C, karaoke night.
I don't think I want to be at church. I don't think I want to be at church because you would think that people catching the spirit or whatnot would be something that would be right to happen in church. The thing about the Huasca is once you're on it, you don't get to decide when you're off of it or whatever the psychedelic. I'm thinking that it's ayahuasca because of this episode. You don't get to decide when you go off of it. So when everybody else has taken the white cloth off of them and they got back up and everybody acting normal, you're like, I'm not there. I would probably say my other option was a music festival.
A music festival and a karaoke night.
I don't think a music festival would be right for me, honestly, because I don't have an opportunity to set the intention of it. I feel like I have actually, oddly enough, more control over karaoke because I kind of get a chance to pick the songs that I want to sing and I have some sort of agency in my destiny or whatnot. So I'm going to say at a karaoke bar. Because everybody can be a little kooky or whatnot, and you don't stick out like a sore thumb. That's my answer, and I'm sticking to it. What about you?
Ironically enough, I would also say karaoke night.
I win!
And the reason we don't win, we just agree.
But when we agree, I win.
Nah, I don't think that's how that works.
I think so.
Okay, you know what? Maybe we can have our readers call in. You guys can write in.
Why do you keep talking about readers? There's a camera And they listen.
Dear reader, don't you get... Anyway, the fact of the matter is that just because we agree doesn't mean you win.
Okay,
but I do want to say that
yes.
this actually happened to me.
This did happen
I
to you.
took our kids to
Farmers Market.
I will not say which one, but maybe it was Culver City. And they had you can take a free samples, fruit, dried fruit. They had tea. I'm not thinking, and I should have known because the little girl.
But also, you're convinced that it came from this tea, and you don't know for certain.
I was fine. This girl was in the back, and she was like, "You want some tea?" And I should have known then. But I'm thinking, yes, oh my God, she's so sweet. I'd knock back the tea. Get to Sprouts, go to Sprouts. We exchanged money.
Oh boy. You exchanged money?
No.
You gave him some and he said, well, here you go.
No, when I gave him the money, his hand sort of brushed up against mine.
Ryan does not like germs.
No,
is that what you thought? I'm
not saying he was inherently germy. I'm just saying this is what happened. But by the time I got home, I had started tripping over the fact that his hand brushed me. It was like, I could feel it. And I kept feeling the hand brush. And I was like, oh my God, was that the beginning of something? What if he transferred something? And
you don't need tea for that.
And my brain is like going and going and going. And I get home and I'm feeling paranoid. The kids, and I'm like, something is wrong with me. And then I kept thinking, I know a doctor, but I can't think of any doctors. I said, don't we have friends who are doctors? But then I'm talking and nobody's there. I'm like, who am I? And then I'm walking around.
I came home.
I called you.
You called me, but when I came home,
I said, you got to get home.
Black ass was walking around the kitchen table.
I was walking around the kitchen island.
I was like, no, you gonna stop walking around the table? She's like, I can't stop walking around the table.
And I said, phone a friend. And then I was like, I should call the police. But I was like, if I call the police, they're gonna take our kids. And it was like, everything was cyclical. Wow. I was like, if I call the police, they're gonna take our kids. And our kids are in danger. If our kids are in danger, I should call the police. I can't call the police. They're gonna take our kids.
She couldn't stop.
Awful. It was awful. And then I was like, it was because I brushed up again.
Oh boy.
I said, oh my God, maybe this is the beginning of a plague. Oh my God. And maybe it was a transference.
This is the last of us. That's how the mushrooms come through.
If I had seen that before that.
This was before the last of us. Couldn't get around to watch the last of us.
I've been dead.
Got rid of every mushroom in the house.
And I have like 3 or 4 friends on speed dial who are doctors. And I was like, I can't think. It's like, I know I have friends who are doctors.
You got a plastic surgeon, a urologist.
And then we ended up calling
my emergency medicine doctor. He's like, I think she's okay.
And I was like, I'm not okay. And then you gave me tea. Amanda, who, God bless her, is our cousin who knows a lot about these things.
Yes, she does.
And she was like, you need to drink some tea. She sprung into action. And like I had herbal tea. And then once I realized what was wrong, and I was like, tea. It was the tea. And I think I said it like 5 times. I was like, do y'all know it was a tea? I said, I told y'all it was a tea.
I'm having a hard time believing this happened at the farmer's market, but it
was the tea.
I saw your ass walking around that table.
It was the tea. And so anyway, long story short, he came home. I knew the kids were okay. It wasn't like I enjoyed it because I was like, this is not fun.
Yeah.
And it was against my will. But it was the best sleep of my life. So
I won.
I think
I won.
I think I won.
We made it through ayahuasca and she made it through her tea. Hey, thank you for joining us for this episode of We Don't Always Agree. Please come back.
Yes.
I know we're crunchy black people, but we still love y'all. You
can find us on the back of your granola box. And wherever you get your podcasts. Tell your friends.
Thank you very much, y'all. Take it easy.